Imagine stepping out of your spacecraft onto another world. Not Mars, not the Moon, but a planet shrouded in mystery and nicknamed Earth's evil twin, Venus. What would it be like to land and try to survive on this hellish landscape? Let's gear up for the most extreme survival challenge the solar system has to offer. First, let's talk about the journey. Traveling to Venus takes about 100 days, a bit shorter than a trip to Mars. But the real challenge isn't getting there. It's what you do when you arrive. As your lander plummets through the atmosphere, you'd immediately realize why Venus is so hostile. The air is almost entirely carbon dioxide. To be exact, it's so thick and dense that the atmospheric pressure on the surface is over 90 times that of Earth. That's like being almost a kilometer deep in the ocean. Any standard spacecraft or spacesuit would be crushed instantly, like a soda can under a steamroller. So, our lander would need to be built like a deep-sea submersible, a heavily reinforced sphere of titanium. Let's say our futuristic craft survives the descent. As the hatch opens, you wouldn't step out. You can't. The first thing that would hit you is the heat. Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system, with surface temperatures averaging a staggering 465 degrees Celsius, or 870 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to melt lead. Your specialized suit would need an incredibly advanced, constantly running cooling system, far beyond anything we have today. Without it, you'd be cooked in seconds. The view outside would be unlike anything on Earth. The thick, yellowish clouds are made of sulfuric acid, and they permanently obscure the sun. You'd be in a state of perpetual, gloomy twilight. The light that does filter through would be tinged orange-red by the dense CO2 atmosphere. The landscape itself is a volcanic wasteland. We know from radar mapping that Venus is covered in vast plains of basaltic rock, thousands of volcanoes, and towering mountains. Some of these volcanoes might even be active. Imagine seeing a lava flow, not glowing red like on Earth, but shimmering under the dim orange sky, the molten rock barely hotter than the air around it. What about walking around? The ground is dry, rocky, and utterly devoid of water. There are no rivers, no oceans, no ice. The pressure is so high that the carbon dioxide atmosphere behaves like a supercritical fluid near the surface. This means it has properties of both a gas and a liquid. Moving through it would feel like wading through a thick, soupy fog. Every step would be a struggle against this immense pressure and density. The winds on the surface are surprisingly slow, just a few kilometers per hour. But don't let that fool you. Because the atmosphere is so dense, even a gentle breeze would push against you with incredible force. It would feel less like a wind and more like a current in a river, capable of knocking you off your feet and sending dust and small rocks flying. And this isn't regular dust, it's likely sharp, abrasive volcanic material. Could you establish a base? Building on the surface would be an engineering nightmare. You'd need materials that can withstand the crushing pressure and searing heat indefinitely. Perhaps you could use local Venusian rock, melting it down with a nuclear-powered furnace to 3D print structures. But powering this base would be a monumental task. Solar panels are useless under the thick clouds. Your only real option would be nuclear power, like a radioisotope thermoelectric generator, or RTG, but on a massive scale. And what would you do for resources? There's no water to drink or to split into oxygen for breathing, and hydrogen for fuel. You'd have to bring every drop with you. Or invent some wildly advanced chemical processor to extract the tiny trace amounts of water vapor from the upper atmosphere, which is a whole other mission in itself. The atmosphere is 96.5% carbon dioxide, so you could, in theory, extract oxygen from the CO2. This process, however, is extremely energy-intensive. You'd need your nuclear reactor running at full capacity just to generate enough breathable air for a small crew. Communication with Earth would also be a challenge. Venus rotates incredibly slowly and in the opposite direction to most planets. A single day on Venus 1, full rotation lasts 243 Earth days. This slow rotation messes with direct line-of-sight communication. You'd be reliant on a network of satellites in orbit around Venus to relay messages back home. Given all these life-threatening challenges, is there any way to survive on Venus? Well, maybe not on the surface. But what if we looked up? About 50 to 60 kilometers high in the Venusian atmosphere, the conditions become surprisingly Earth-like. At that altitude, the temperature ranges from 30 to 80 degrees Celsius, so uncomfortable, but survivable. The atmospheric pressure is about the same as Earth's at sea level. Scientists have proposed the idea of Cloud City's giant, floating habitats. Because our breathable air, a mix of nitrogen and oxygen, is lighter than the dense carbon dioxide atmosphere of Venus. A balloon filled with Earth air would float. So you could have vast, Zeppelin-like colonies drifting through the clouds. It sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's based on real physics. These floating cities would have access to sunlight for solar power. They could harvest sulfuric acid, water, and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to create water, oxygen, and even rocket fuel for a return trip. It's a much more feasible long-term survival strategy than trying to conquer the surface. The colonists would live inside these habitats, but could potentially venture outside onto balconies or tethered platforms in specialized suits. The weather at this altitude is more extreme, with wind speeds reaching over 300 kilometers per hour. So the cities would need to be incredibly robust. So, while landing and trying to live on the surface of Venus is probably the deadliest challenge imaginable in our solar system, humanity's ingenuity might just find a way, not by fighting the planet, but by adapting and finding the one small niche where life isn't immediately extinguished. The future of humanity on Venus might not be on the ground, but floating in its toxic, beautiful, golden clouds. It's a powerful reminder that exploration isn't always about planting a flag, but about finding clever ways to survive in the most unlikely of places. Thanks so much for watching. If you're fascinated by the extremes of our solar system, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into space. See you next time.